Pantheon AI presents Fed chair candidate demands rate cuts. Now, OPEC oil shock, Ethereum surges 3%. Welcome to the PAI morning briefing, everyone. It's September 3rd, 2025, and we've got a lot to get into today.
We certainly do. Good morning. It's great to be here. The markets are giving us some really interesting signals to unpack.
Absolutely. I always love starting with a quick tour of the markets. So, looking at equities, the S&P 500 is trading at 6,434.64, which is a slight dip of about 0.17%.
Right, and we're seeing a similar story with the Dow Jones, which is down about 0.44%, sitting at 45,109.26.
But here's where it gets interesting. The Nasdaq is actually in a different mood entirely. It's up, just barely, by about 0.07%, at 21,477.07.
So a really mixed bag in the major indices. And the Russell 2000 is also down a bit, about 0.25%. It just feels subdued, doesn't it?
Subdued is the perfect word for it, but if you turn your eyes to the crypto world, it's a completely different story. Bitcoin is up almost 0.75%, at $112,052.
And Ethereum is really making a statement. It's trading near $4,460, which is a surge of over 3%. That's pretty impressive.
It really is. It's this exact interplay that's so fascinating. While the traditional markets are kind of treading water, these alternative assets are rallying. It makes you wonder, right? Is this just a healthy correction in the stock market, or are we seeing a bigger shift in where investors are putting their money?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It feels like investors are cautiously watching the big indexes, but are still willing to be bold in the digital currency space.
Well, speaking of things that could shake up the markets, a huge narrative today is central bank guidance. There's a really notable voice waller who's in the running for Fed chair, suggesting the Fed could start cutting rates as soon as the next meeting.
That's a huge deal. It's a total departure from that strict, predetermined approach we've been hearing about. And you can see the split in the market's reaction, can't you? On one hand, you have people worried it could fire up inflation again.
Exactly. But on the other hand, some believe it could unlock a lot of capital for growth sectors that really need it. It's a classic central bank dilemma.
It is. You know, it almost makes you think if central bankers had a motto, it'd be something like, all work and no play makes a Fed bureaucrat dull. They're always walking that tightrope.
That's a good one. And beyond monetary policy, the labor market is also giving us some mixed signals. A new survey shows that U.S. job openings fell in July to the second lowest level since the pandemic.
So it looks like hiring is stalling out a bit. That really is a double-edged sword. It could just be companies being cautious with all the uncertainty. Or it could point to deeper issues in the economy.
Right. It's a good reminder for everyone watching those metrics to look beyond just the headline number and think about the underlying rhythm of the economy. Now, let's shift gears to the energy sector, where oil prices actually took a tumble.
Yeah, I saw that. It came after a Reuters report that OPEC Plus might be considering another output hike this weekend. And then Bloomberg chimed in that they had already pumped more in August.
So what does that mean? I mean, it's classic supply and demand, right?
Totally. More supply usually means lower prices. That could be great news for us at the pump, but it could spell trouble for energy companies' profits. And of course, these ripples can affect everything from global markets to geopolitics.
Speaking of ripples, let's get into some fascinating tech stories. First up, Anthropic, the AI startup. It was just valued at an astronomical $183 billion.
Wow, that number is just staggering. But the interesting angle here is that this could actually be great news for a giant like Amazon.
How so?
Well, the thinking is that a super valuable company like Anthropic will be spending a ton of money on cloud computing, which directly benefits Amazon's AWS platform. It shows how these strategic tech investments aren't happening in a vacuum.
That's a great point. And sticking with the tech giants, there's another headline stirring the pot around Google. It seems the idea that AI saved Google from their regulatory challenges might be a bit too simple.
Right. The reality seems to be that the remedies targeting Google's search dominance are actually going to give a major leg up to their competition, namely, these emerging AI chatbots.
So the big question is, can Google search really survive in this new ecosystem? It's a fascinating puzzle for investors, that's for sure.
It really is. And on a slightly lighter note, you know we can't go a day without mentioning Jim Cramer. He's got his top 10 things to watch list out for Wednesday, highlighting big moves at Apple and Alphabet.
Of course he does. It's always entertaining to see those big names on a list. It reminds you that finance can be as much about entertainment as it is discipline. It's kind of like watching your favorite sports team play under pressure.
Totally. And speaking of everyday life, Campbell's actually surprised analysts with its earnings forecast because, as you might guess, more people are cooking at home.
It's a trend we've all noticed. It really makes you think about which consumer staples companies stand to gain. Now for a bit of a plot twist. There's this idea of Trump state capitalism making the rounds.
That's definitely raising some eyebrows. The idea is that companies already getting federal support might get even closer to the government, blurring the lines between politics, regulation, and the stock market.
It's an intricate dance. And here's a fun one. Gold just hit an all-time high. There's this anecdote that a Costco gold bar bought a year ago is worth significantly more today.
I love that. Of course, it's a playful reminder that you have to account for fees and taxes, but it's still a fun thought. It's a good reminder to stay pragmatic.
Exactly. And one last story, MedEvolve, an AI-driven healthcare company, is transitioning its revenue management business. It just shows how even traditional sectors are being completely revolutionized by technology.
You know, when you take a step back, you see how interconnected everything is. The global economy is shifting towards this more digital, more linked environment. The big question for investors is, how do you position yourself for that?
From an expert view, it seems clear the next few weeks will bring more adjustments. Those potential interest rate changes could create ripples everywhere, and investors just need to be nimble.
I agree. You have to balance those short-term tactical moves with your long-term goals. And looking at the sectors, in tech, it's about distinguishing between hype and real shifts. In energy, it's that classic dance between supply and global demand.
And in financials, all eyes are on the Fed. Waller's comments are provocative, and the sector is going to be volatile. It keeps you on your toes.
It feels like we're always asking, are we at a tipping point, or is this just more of the same? That's what keeps us coming back every day.
So to quickly recap, we're seeing equity indexes taking a slight breather while crypto is showing some real energy. Policy signals, especially from the Fed and OPEC, are the big influencers right now.
And in tech, it's that dual story of regulatory pressure and incredible innovation happening at the same time. The main takeaway is that investors need to stay agile and informed.
Couldn't have said it better. Well, that's our deep dive for today. Thank you all so much for joining us on this September 3rd, 2025.
Yes, thank you. We hope you found it insightful. And a big shout out to Pantheon AI for being your trusted information co-pilot on this journey.
Absolutely. We'll be back tomorrow. And remember, you can always reach out to our AI co-pilot if you need more clarity. We're here to help untangle the complexity.
And remember, learning about this stuff shouldn't feel like a chore. Until next time, keep your curiosity sharp.
Keep your portfolios diversified and your sense of humor intact. Have a great day and happy investing, everyone.
Pantheon AI, your information co-pilot.
Because learning shouldn't feel like a full-time job. Take care and see you next time.